Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to all of you joining us today from different time zones. I am Saurabh Kavaathekar, and I'm truly delighted to see such a fantastic turnout for today's session. Uh, we have the session on scaling global products in the age of AI. Today's session is part of our new webinar series called as Globalization at the Power of AI, where we will explore practical and strategic intersection of globalization and AI. And as a leader in this space, our team at Fidel Softech is dedicated to helping organizations bridge the gap between localization and AI-driven automation. And I know how busy your calendars are, so I want to start by saying a big thank you for taking the time to join this conversation. We know we all are very much interested in this topic. We are at the crossroads in the localization industry, and today is all about sharing the real world leadership insights on how we navigate this AI shift together, right? And so before we dive into today's session, just a few quick housekeeping items. We are recording this session right now, and we will share the link with you afterwards. To ensure the best audio quality for everyone, all attendees will remain muted during the discussion with our guest. We will unmute everyone at the end of the session for the Q&A part. And I just wanted to also let you know that today I have a bad cough and cold. So please pardon me if I cough or sneeze during the session today. So now it's my absolute honor to introduce our esteemed guest, Anna Schlegel. She really needs no introduction in our industry. She is a deputy of the Parliament of Catalunya, the co-founder and the chair of Women in Localization, and the author of the book Truly Global. And beyond her many titles like entrepreneur, investor, and board member, she has spent years leading globalization teams at companies like NetApp, VMware, Procore, Cisco Systems, and a few others. Anna, it's wonderful to have you here. Thank you for joining. I would definitely want to say this, that Anna is my mentor, and more than that, she is my guru in the field of localization. And she will be sharing her perspective today from the C-suite's perspective. So Anna, would you like to say something before I get to my set of questions for today's conversation? Welcome.
Of course. Hello from Barcelona. I'm so happy to be here with you, Saurabh, and it's just such an honor to be part of this series that you're kicking off of webinars. I wish you much good luck, and I'm happy to be the first one here. And yeah, I mean, it's a big topic, and I'm happy that we're a big community of very good friends and technical, gurus and nerds that were always working together for many years in very difficult innovation, but we love working on this stuff. So thank you for having me here.
Absolutely, Anna. And again, it's an honor to have you here. And I would say before we get into questions that I'm truly honored. Thank you, everyone, once again for joining in. This is the first webinar that we are doing, Globalization at the Power of AI. We want to have most of you who are in the audience side today. Sometime you will also be invited as guests, and we will hear your perspective as well. So that's the plan that we have going forward. So maybe without doing further ado, I think I will get to my set of questions. We cannot wait to hear from Anna about her experience in the C-suite and in the leadership roles. So Anna, you have seen the industry evolve through several cycles and several phases.
Yeah.
How is the current AI wave fundamentally different or similar from any of those automation transitions we have seen in the past?
Wow, I think in a few years we'll be able to answer better. It's definitely a huge one, for sure. I remember when the word MT came about or internet came about, because I'm one of the people that was in the Silicon Valley in the early 90s when internet was just not even a thing, So we've seen like very scary and revolutionary things like the internet and fiber optic and submarine cables. I worked in all this stuff, like putting an S on HTTPS. Like we have to secure the internet. We've seen all of this. We've seen content lakes. We've seen AI for so many years, right? I think what's so many years. You and I have seen AI for so many years. And I think that now that it's getting commoditized is the scary part, because I think if you're not in engineering or in tech, you're wondering, what is this thing? How do I use this to my advantage? I think, it's huge. It's huge because everybody's talking about it. It's huge because it's scaring enough people. It's huge because we're being threatened by it. It's huge because it's a change. It's a change how robots are accelerating, right? Or the big titles and the marketing of it. Yeah, I guess I have to imagine when the internet came about,
Absolutely.
I was one of the few people when I finished my first or second career, I said I will never touch a computer. I was that person, I said I'll never buy a computer. A little did I know, right?
And here you are today.
And here we are, talking through a computer. So I think what we need to do as leaders is accompany people in this journey and make sure that it doesn't look that scary, and that we very patiently translate what you and I know and many people on this phone call know into lame terms, and we slow down a little bit to train teachers and to train lawyers and to train HR people. And it wasn't our intention that when we were developing the first LLMs and content lakes, and when we were running the innovation lab for 10 years at the Silicon Valley, we were going to get to where we are. And it was definitely not my intention to scare these many people. And so now I think we have a duty to be here and to help,
Absolutely, Anna. And I concur with what you say and what you think. And something that I also feel is, whether we are aware or unaware of it, whatever we see today as the AI, literally, and maybe its future, every single of us have actually contributed to this, maybe directly or indirectly, but we all are contributors.
No, directly, Saurabh, directly. And don't pretend we didn't work on this for many years.
Right.
No. It's directly impacted, because I think from the innovation and patents and patent offices, and we push the envelope very hard.
Absolutely. We all have seen this. And which brings me to the next question is, so you have been investor, entrepreneur yourself. So what is the first thing that you look for in a global ready business, right? Forget about for some time whether it is AI driven, automated, not automated, but a global ready business. How does it look like? Is it that their tech stack or their leadership mindset or their approach to localization? What is it more important, or what do you think, what is the most important key factor when it comes to being a global ready company or a team?
I think that there's a few things, because the other day somebody else asked me this, like, where do you like to work at or invest in? And I said something that I think was very weird to say, because not a lot of people have had the job that I have had, which was, if it's not going to touch more than 190 countries, I'm not going to work on it. And people are like, what?
Yeah.
So I think the type of stuff that I worked at NetApp or at VeriSign, or when we were creating the S on the HTTPS, or when we were adding the first languages at Google, or when we were virtualizing the OS at VMware to virtualize data, or working at NetApp, to do all the software around ONTAP. Why were we working on this? Every single thing that I just mentioned, everybody's using that stuff. If you have a phone, you're using that stuff, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So I have invested in a couple companies, and I have spent a lot of time mentoring and being in boards. And I think that my head, because it's been trained so many years to think this way, it's mainly like, is this going to work for anybody, any team that will be in Cairo or in India or in Timbuktu? So one of the recent examples is I was at the board of Easy Dapps, and we just sold the company to Cisco Systems. So I think we're on a WebEx.
Yeah.
So WebEx, the technology that so Easy Dapps just was bought by WebEx and Cisco, so that I can be talking to you in Catalan. I don't even have to talk in English, and you're going to be able to hear me if you choose in Hindu.
Brilliant.
That's the stuff we work. So this is the kind of investment into big things, the things that can help people, and it's tech for global good, not tech for global bad. That was always the notion. And what do you look for? Unfortunately, or fortunately, I've worked all my life in the Silicon Valley. So what do I look for? It's a little bit different than what I would be expecting in Europe, where I sit now for the last year and a half, where I understand that when you want to do something really big, you have to think really big. And you need to be ready to suffer. I'm sorry to say that, but many weekends, many nights. It's not like I will get up whenever I want to. It's like it's major focus. It's a lot of hustling. It's people that know to knock a lot of doors, that know how to present pitch to the Y Combinator or the B Combinator here in Barcelona. People that some need to bootstrap and some are going to get investment.
Right.
But definitely the ones that get your attention, that know how to tell you the typical elevator pitch. This is what I have, and you need to know about this. And so not a lot of people know how to speak like this, capture your attention. My LinkedIn gets, I don't know, 10, 20 requests a day on, I want to talk to you, right?
Yeah.
Or I want you to look at this, or I want you to invest in this. Like, why? But what do I look for is for anybody who wants to get on a board or invest or assess or consult, you have to show something very clever at this level. And the team needs to be very consistent, and you need to go through a lot of no.
Exactly.
A lot of no. It's a lot of hard work. Yeah.
Got it.
So you're looking for attitude, you're looking for communication skills, you're looking for something that's unique. Don't show me something that already exists. Like that's you and I remember we used to do a lot of soul searching into patent libraries. Does this thing exist already? Why would we want something for NetApp or something for another company when it already exists and I can buy it, right?
Absolutely. There is always that build or buy kind of a discussion for those companies. And you touched upon this point. You yourself have been, like you talked about the Easy Dubs example or the other boards that you have been on. So how has the conversation around the globalization changed at the board level, right? We know that business is top of the mind for them, but is there around the globalization, has it changed as compared to the past few years, especially now as AI has been automating and we can do things much faster? So are they finally seeing it as a revenue driver, globalization as a revenue driver, or rather than maybe a cost center? Because I know several years, I think we have seen it all, that they see globalization teams or globalization setups or even globalization localization vendors as a cost, right? And revenue driver maybe now because things are getting more faster. So what's your perspective on that?
I think that this is not an AI question to the board members of Fortune companies where I've presented and I've worked with. To me, and I had this conversation with the CEO last Thursday night at a dinner, it's when the C-suite knows that they have to expand into another market or into a whole other continent, or they make the first decision that they're going to go pre-IPO, or that they've expanded enough inside their own country, that's when they come and find you.
Right.
And so I remember a few years ago when I was in nonprofit boards, but I wanted to get in for-profit boards, right? And I was talking to Tahar, the CEO of Common Sense Advisory, and I said, Tahar, how does one, get onto what's the sweet spot when the board starts talking about going global? And so we actually did the exercise of, there are usually these companies in the States, Europe very different. In the States, they're approaching $300 million, 3, 4, 5. Maybe they have gone to 1 or 2 countries, but when they really need the growth pattern, is when they hit the 3, 4, $500 million. They really cannot keep growing at the pace they need to grow, just staying in one country. This is the U.S. The U.S. In Catalonia, where I am now, after 2 or 3 million, they go out. It's because Catalonia we're small, right? But in the level of the U.S., then these board members or the CEO, that's when they scramble and they're like, oh, maybe we just need to translate the press releases.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's when companies can make it or break it, and they get into a lot of trouble. And that's when, they in the case of everywhere where I've worked, they came and found me. I rarely applied for a job. People are like, oh, she seems to know how to take companies globally, right? So at that point, when you get hired or you're being interviewed to get into another company, that's when you have that conversation. It's like, is the board aware of the amount of work we're about to do? And in the past couple of jobs, it was like, well, if I join your organization, I need this many people and this sort of a budget. And the first year, leave me alone because it's going to take me a lot to rally the whole company, right? There are times when the company needs to get into China. That is a board conversation. Or I remember at Cisco Systems when offshoring was not a word. This is the 90s. That was a board conversation where we're like, oh my God, we're going to do this thing where we're going to bring a lot of Indian talent into the Silicon Valley. That was a board conversation. It's going to be like a really big deal. Board members don't discuss localization, translations. They just don't. They have a lot of other headaches. It's the job of the globalization director or manager to sometimes, maybe once every couple of years, to say, I would like to show that because we've done this, we've seen growth in these markets. But you have to be really well prepared if you're going to talk to a board, especially a Fortune 500 board. If it's a smaller company, maybe you have a better shot at going to talk to the board.
Okay, understood. Sure, Anna. And so maybe because I think at board level, they have a lot of other things to really worry about, and they definitely drive the company at a very different level. But when we think about the product development teams, the engineering teams, the localization engineering teams, in my own experience of last 25 years working in this industry, especially enterprise software companies, internationalization is often a silent bottleneck in the global growth, right? So how should C-suite or CXO leaders view the value of internationalization, which is making your code ready before you even think about or maybe even apply localization in the application, right? Especially as now we can leverage AI to automate finding and fixing of bugs, some work that we had done in the past, and now I am further doing that in my current role here at Fidel Softech. So we can do it with AI. It has made things much easier. So how does that work? What's your experience with that?
I have one very good trick. So when I got into Procore Technologies, whenever I join any company, I spend 3-4 months saying nothing, very little. I stay very quiet, but I observe a lot. I interview a lot of people. I look how engineers work, how product leaders work, and I don't pass any judgment. What I saw, for example, at Procore, same that we saw at NetApp, was technical debt.
Right.
Technical debt was off the charts. This is years ago. Okay, I started the team like 4 or 5 years ago. And then when you study this technical debt, it was like, oh my God, a lot of it is about internationalization.
Right.
The leaders back then, they were doing what they thought they had to do, which was keep fixing the technical debt. And that was a board conversation. There was so much technical debt that I talked to my boss and I said, look, all these thousands of tickets that are sitting here, we can fix it very quickly. And that's when I was able to bring in an internationalization vice president. It was so bad. It was so much that we created a team there, right?
Right.
And that's when you can apply a lot of artificial intelligence, because you can learn, you can create your own libraries of like where are these developers making the issues all the time. It's usually, the same 200 issues around currencies and time and colors and text expansion.
Exactly.
It's the same thing. And it still is interesting that Fortune companies don't know this. It's like, oh my God, like the engineering teams, sometimes they haven't been exposed to what it is to take code globally, right? And so that's where artificial intelligence can do a lot. It can scan, I know that has patterns on that kind of stuff. Wink, wink.
Right.
We work very hard to say, a code can be scanned for a ton of things, so why can't we scan it overnight to look for internationalization errors and fix it? And we did that, right? So AI can help a lot. Yeah,
absolutely. And my experience in this area has been that I would always, if I am a product manager or the overall engineering team leader, I would want the product engineers to be focusing completely on the new feature development, new functionalities. They should not be bothered about whether the code is. Obviously, they need to make sure ultimately someone has to make sure that the code that goes out is also internationalization ready, and it works really well in the different markets, different locales. But at the same time, my experience has been we don't want to bother those engineers who are focusing on the feature development, functionality of the new release, next release, SaaS kind of releases, very, very quick, very agile. So automation, AI is now playing an important role. Earlier, it used to be a bit of, they used to be feeling shy that, okay, should we first maybe prioritize the feature development or some new functionality, or should we first focus on this? The technical debt, as you mentioned, used to be a big concern. But now I think that concern is taken away with the automation and AI, like automatically.
I have to tell you that if you're in a top company in the world, the top 100, the top 500, this is not even a question. You hurry up and fix it,
Exactly.
And so if your product leader is incredible, which has been the case, I've worked for incredible product leaders, products that everybody's using, like these are the thinkers of the products that we're using. You better keep up with them.
Exactly.
And you have to resolve it. And if you don't resolve it, you know how it works in the States. Bye-bye. So you have to stay very focused.
Yeah, so based on your experience, so you have led globalization teams, as we discussed earlier, at companies like NetApp or VMware, Cisco Systems, Procore, etc. So where the time to market is everything, you just mentioned that, right? And so tell us, how can the localization leaders at the same time, when they are automating and doing all this, really all the efforts, how can they show the ROI to their CEOs and the senior leaders? What do you think about? Because ROI has been a persistent question.
So usually, again, localization leaders are not going to show anything to any CEO. CEOs should not spend any time with localizers.
Right.
However, whoever is the vice president or the GM of that business unit or that team, and I'm talking about big deal of things, okay? If
Right.
it's a smaller company, you will. If it's a SMB,
Right.
you will. But in my
Right.
experience, the way that if you work in a large company, how are you going to represent localization is through the product leader or through the engineering leader. And usually there's quarterly business reviews. So you go on a slide in there where you're going to say, we enter these markets, we're seeing this type of result from the customers, from the clients. You're going to focus on the client. You're never going to talk about bugs or technical debt or translations, or of course you're going to say, now this is in French. Woohoo.
Right.
But you can say it
Right.
one
Right.
time. That's it. You know,
Exactly.
after that, you have to say, here's how the French market is reacting. And because we did it in French, here's how Quebec is doing, right?
Exactly.
Um,
Right.
you have to be very careful with what you present to C level and C suite and VPs because they may get very tired or bored, or you have to make it customer interesting, the customer always in the middle,
Exactly.
because we localized this. Now we're seeing these accounts, or we were able to sell more, or because we got into Japan, now we got the National Police Academy, whatever it is, right?
Correct.
But you have to make it business interesting because these guys and girls, some girls, are there to run the business and make
Right.
money and
Yeah.
focus
Yeah.
on keep the
Absolutely.
customer
Absolutely.
happy. Right? Sorry,
Absolutely.
sorry, look.
Yeah. No, no, that's perfectly fine. And in fact, the takeaway right now on this topic is, right, when the localization engineering teams or product engineering teams, they come up with their, I think, metrics, which is more on technical debt or how many bugs or issues, right? Or maybe efficiency numbers. They should also connect it with the business lingo and how the things,
Yeah.
how does it look like from that local geo? What changes do you see? How it is improving the sales or maybe the revenue from these different markets? If that kind of a combination for that organization is there, they can get fetch some
Yeah.
information,
This,
connect it with that.
Saurabh,
That becomes the
this
ROI.
is reminding me in one organization, we had what we call transparent metrics. And then we had another set of black box metrics. The black box metrics are very important. You need to know your technical debt. You need to know the speed of fixing coding issues. You need to understand when you're developing a product. Those are the black box metrics. But the transparent metrics are the ones that people are not very good at, and we need to help folks develop, which is we just got this product into this market, and then you explain how is it functioning. And that's when you start working with product marketing and technical marketing and information engineers and the local country managers, and you start interviewing local customers. Those are the transparent metrics. Those will be more interesting to the C-suite or the VP
Exactly.
of your team.
Got it. Got it. So basically, I think globalization shouldn't be a downstream activity. It has to be at the every level. And so, what are your tips for moving localization upstream into the initial product design and engineering phases? I think some maybe thoughts you have already shared, but I would still want to understand because a lot of teams I have seen in my work at different companies that they struggle to moving it upstream into more initial product design and engineering phases.
So I like to work with tripods or squads, where you have UX, product, and engineering. So I've always created these teams. I always manage these teams and I tell, maybe you have 30 of these teams, 40, 50, I don't know how many squads you have. Yeah. And then you tell them that they need to do a few things, like work with compliance, work with localization. And so some things are horizontal, and these tripods, the leaders usually are the product leaders or UX or engineering. They must work with localization, and I don't let them pass the next step unless they have worked with localization, because to go upstream, you need to start from the bottom.
Correct.
That's where we were talking. The code needs to be great. The product leader who's creating these massive, beautiful write-ups, Jeff Bezos style, they may not even be thinking about the countries, or they may be, if the product is being developed in the Netherlands, they're thinking about how the product is going to work in the Netherlands. I'm like, no. Where are we going with these products in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years? Is this a forever product?
Absolutely.
HTTPS, the S, we're still all working. Catalan is still there. So these product leaders need to understand how big or how little do they want their product to go. And that's in connection with sales, right? And so this journey of many years, because it takes many years on these huge things, right? Like we're talking about AI, people are, in 2025, they were afraid. Maybe in 2026, they're still going to be afraid. But 2027, 28, 29, 30 is going to be easier, right? So you have to start from the very beginning and not make an afterthought, because catching up, as you know, is very expensive and very hard. And it's the technical debt that we were talking about.
Sure.
That's going to let you beat the competition or reach more customers or more solutions or more patients or more whatever. Yeah.
Sure. Maybe shifting gears a little bit. And so as the president of the Women in Localization, what skills do you believe the next generation globalization leaders need to cultivate? I understand that the engineers are already coming in. We hire them with the right set of skills at the technical level. But for an AI first environment, when it comes to more senior leaders who have been managing things in a different way earlier, what kind of skills should they bring on the table?
I think they need to know the old skills and the new skills, right? They still need to know that code needs to be beautifully internationalized by AI, by humans, by a mix. You still need to know all of this. You still need to know adaptation of content. You still need to know global markets. You still need to know compliances. You still need to know everything. I think what's changing is HR thinking that AI can do everything, and it's not true. It's just not true. But they are, saying things like, "Oh, AI is going to be able to do whatever." I know of a massive, probably one of the top companies here in Catalonia. It's a very big company that everybody knows, and it's a company that's probably Zara. I'm just going to say it, Zara.
Yeah. Okay.
They just decided that localization needs to be done by AI.
All right.
Well, we will see, because I've seen companies that have made that decision and then go back. Even OpenAI hired their own localization manager recently, right?
Yep.
So I think the new leaders, what do they need to understand? Large content, global content, LLMs. They need to understand deep fakes. They need to understand ethical coding. They need to understand compliance. They need to understand the European Union. Because AI in the States, very different than AI in India, very different than AI in Europe. So you have to watch out. I used to have a neighbor in the Silicon Valley that was always on airplanes. He used to work for Apple, and he was always going to defend Apple in the EU because Apple was getting so many fines, right? And they still do.
Right.
So I think you need to understand compliance. You need to understand the new titles that the young people that are coming out of universities will have, right? And it's more agile, I guess, because you can automate everything much better. There's a lot of agencies, right? I'm sure you guys can do that as well, where you've done it so many times. You just tell people, here's the tech stuff that's going to make your content go really fast. And some parts are going to be automated, connected APIs, AI, and somebody needs to watch over this. It's just
Exactly.
not going to be a computer that's going to watch over this.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely. Great point.
But
Yes.
you can put some AI to watch over the errors that are being done. I think
Exactly.
that's for sure. And good luck, young people, getting into our field. It's a lot.
Right.
It's a lot, but it's doable, and that's why you still need a team. You still need a team, because the experience when I go and buy something at Zara, I want it in my language. I want it well written. I don't want to laugh about it. Right?
Exactly. It doesn't really matter what kind of technology or automation in the past we had used or now we are using, but ultimately the end goal is that we need to make sure that the customer understands in their own language, and they have the trust and confidence in what you are actually coming up with. So maybe as I get to the final maybe question for you, so you wear many hats, Anna: a politician, an author, a board member, an entrepreneur. What is one maybe global leadership trait that has served you equally well in the parliament as it did in the Silicon Valley boardrooms?
Listening, not jumping to conclusions, learning, being very humble, so that then you can study and understand where things are heading. If you have the luxury to be given a couple months to learn or listen, right? Like, my world is so very different right now. I had never been in a parliament. I work in a palace every day. I used to work in a cube surrounded by people. And now I'm surrounded by politicians and members of parliament that work at a very different speed. But they're equally, worried about the world. And I think one thing that goes across is your attitude,
Right.
the ability to negotiate, the ability to make deals. You have to be very diplomatic in politics, or not, but I choose to be diplomatic because I've already achieved more things the way I like, to versus some other style. I remember when I made vice president at NetApp, I was like, oh, now what, and I got a coach, and he said, Anna, there's different styles of being a vice president. And so he described a couple, and mine is the vice presidency of leading with questions. And when I became a general manager at Procore, it served me really well. There's enough leaders. I just need to observe, direct, touch, say, coach, mentor, right? So it's a little bit the same.
Brilliant, brilliant. So I will really, I think, thank you, Anna. Your insights are incredible and valuable for all of us here today. I could honestly keep this conversation going on for hours and hours, but I want to make sure that the audience also get a chance to pick your brain as well. So I think what we will do is we will open the floor for the live Q&A session. If so, everyone who is here, if you have a question for Anna, please unmute yourself and you can ask your question. Perhaps there might be a couple of overlapping questions, so just be mindful and maybe you can be respectful of the others, maybe letting others speak. So I will unmute and you can just hit the unmute button also on your screen to go ahead with your question for Anna. Who has the first question?
Don't be shy. Casey.
Yeah, Casey. Casey, you can unmute yourself, I believe, and ask the question. Maybe I will try to.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, perfect.
not used to wearing, more of a Zoom guy, so it took me a second to find this the unmute button. Much Anna, great to hear your comments. Thank you so much for hosting this, Saurabh. I'm here in the localization industry. I'm starting to round this corner of individual contributor with a good knowledge of what's going on in product localization, and I'm looking to kind of turn that corner and start making my way down the path to localization manager, localization leaderships positions, and I'm having a hard time finding the right courses and the right materials to help me kind of get over that edge without being put in the position blindly by my own leadership team to give me the opportunity to have a team and to show my my capabilities in that area. And so I guess I'm looking for advice. What would you recommend to somebody in a position like mine where you've kind of seen or run the gamut of product localization workflows, tools, etc. You're kind of looking to make the next step in your localization career journey. That's where I'm at. What would you do in my position? What kind of resources would you be looking out for? What kind of networking opportunities, events would you be going to try to get into that next level of your career?
Yeah, I would take management classes. I would take listening classes, speaking classes, writing classes. Just prepare yourself to be an incredible leader. And I would take management classes, not necessarily localization. You can be an incredible manager without having to, some would say, with knowing very little about localization. I've met people that are not very good with localization, but they're incredible.
Most of my managers have had little, yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah. So what do they study your bosses? Like, what is it that they worry about? What do they appreciate? Right? Do they appreciate I don't know, I'm just going to make it up, okay? That you're well dressed. Do they appreciate that you give summaries? There is a book by Jim Collins, that's called Good to Great. It's a 2001 book, okay? 2001, it's 2026. It's one of the best books I ever read around management. It's like good to great. So it gives you a lot of tips on how to be great. Don't be great because of these two that you're talking about. Be great because you want to be great. I think once people signal to their bosses that they're getting ready to be incredible because you show this class and that webinar and this class, and you talk to this person, and you attended a Fidel Softech webinar, and you post it on LinkedIn, and you get a mentor, and you join Women in Localization. Signal that you are getting ready, and if it's not going to happen where you are, it will happen somewhere else, but there's nothing like being ready and networking and meeting people. Whenever I saw people in my team doing that, I'm like, they're the ones that you stand out, right? Because a lot of people, sometimes it's not the right time for us. Sometimes we're tired. Sometimes we just had a kid, sometimes whatever, right? So what I would do is just focus. If that's what you want, if you want to go into management, focus on being a great manager. And for example, today after this webinar, do a little write-up. Here's what Schlegel said about being a good leader. Boom, boom, boom. And I hope you're connected to your bosses on LinkedIn and they see it.
Thank you so much for your comments. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I'm sure anybody can do this kind of stuff, right? Preparing for management and a promotion is a lot of work. So you have to do the work, but don't do it in silence. And don't do it like super loud either. You have to find the humble, humble line. But tell them,
Thank you so much. I made lots of notes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Good luck. You tell us, Casey. Tell me one day on LinkedIn I made manager. Woo! You know?
Great.
Awesome.
Thank you. Awesome. All right. Who would want to go next?
Yeah, Casey, you'll be hearing from me. I hope so. I hope so. Yeah. It's good. It's good. We all have to do, we all went through this kind of stuff. So,
Absolutely.
any other questions?
Jan,
I
can see.
I see Jan. Jan and I had dinner on Thursday. Last Thursday, we met with a bunch of tech leaders, and Jan was there. The first time I met him face to face, it was great.
Absolutely.
He told me all about the power of YouTube. You guys need to
Absolutely.
follow Jan on YouTube.
Absolutely.
That was so great, Anna.
I think from Jan, I think one can learn the power of networking, the power of making connections, making friends. So that's so brilliant.
If you're
Yeah,
open to meet great people, then there's no problem. It's just making this the first step, and we have so many great people in our industry. So that is really cool.
Absolutely, Jan. Any other questions?
Thanks a lot, Anna, for your vision. It's very good to hear the board member position. Really enjoyed to hear that. I think we are hearing this too little in our industry.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, because boards, especially big boards, big tech, they make decisions on entering markets, doing joint ventures, where investment, if the company is doing well or not. It's mainly about financials, right? And if some point of the company is not going well, marketing or whatever, they literally work on finding a new CMO. That's what they work on at that level. They're not going to work if translations were well done. No, that needs to be worked at your department level, right? And you need to show those, I think, black box and transparent metrics where you're just showing you know what you're doing, you're ahead of the curve, and you're innovating. And one idea always that I tell folks is create a little innovation lab in your team to show the rest of the company that you are very much on top of the edge, or you're at the edge of the cutting edge, so they know they are in good hands. And also, very, very important, one thing that I didn't mention is to work really well with all the other teams, right? Just don't be a service. Don't wait that they're coming to you. Like, be very proactive with the CMO, not with everybody, but definitely the CMO, the chief product officer, heads of engineering. We all have sat in different places, right? I've sat under the CMO, the engineering CEO. I've sat everywhere. So make a list of 5 incredible executives that you need to have coffee or virtual coffees every now and then, so that they become your advisory board. You can create your own advisory board. You don't tell them they're part of your advisory board, but you create it, right? Like once a quarter, have a coffee with your chief strategy officer. Here's what I'm thinking. This is what I'm seeing. Here's where I'm heading. Is there anything that's interesting to the board? Is there anything that you would do differently? Is there anything you can tell me that would be important for me to work on? It's very important to be connected to the C-suite to make sure that you're aligned also, right? And it's easy if the company has an open door policy. It's difficult if your boss is a micromanager or is worried about his or her position, right? All those things. All right, come on. One question. Last question. Natalia Gomez. Oh, I think I know her. Natalia.
Hi, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, Natalia, yes.
Okay, it's a pleasure to meet you both. So I'm part of Women in Localization, actually. So thank you, Anna. I'm happy to hear about everything you have to say. My question is going to be similar to Casey's, but let's say on a more beginner level. So I graduated from translation studies about a year ago. And while I was studying, I did many things. I did internships. I did probably DTP, quality control, project management, like a little bit of everything. And now it's like, okay, now what? With AI, what it is, let's say translation work for people like me, like recent graduates, is kind of disappeared. They usually ask for a lot of seniority. And same for internships, they have sort of disappeared a little bit. So I was thinking on, let's say, going into consulting, having my own thing. I live in a small city with many companies that I can see potential on them branching out internationally, but there's no one doing that here for them. No one offers that service. So if you were in my position of you're just a recent graduate, you have AI at your doorstep, but you already done a little bit of everything. What would you do?
What country are you in, Natalia?
I'm based in Argentina.
Okay, so I think that doing your own business or consulting, many times it's to keep you busy and going and learning until you land the next job. We have to make money. We have to pay for rent. We have to buy our food. We have children, forget it, right? So I think that yes, you can do, I mean, this is you, I don't know your situation, but yes, of course you can go into consulting. And we see in Women in Localization that for women working from home and when you have children, localization and advising and doing small translating agencies is very beneficial. I think we have to be clever on how and where we spend our time in this next year, because if you, and again, I don't know your financial situation, but if you need to be independent, financially independent in the next few years, I would venture to say to maybe go into product management or go into data science or go into AI, do a master's in AI or do some data science work. I think every single organization is going to be hiring data analysts, and data analysts need to be able to assess global movements. Now, having said this sorry, I'm talking a really big game. What you said is, what if it's a smaller situation? Then yes. If you score a few clients that need you for a while, and you can help them with their translations, their localization, their digital solutions, their implementation of a web system or CMS or connections or APIs. You have an agency there, right? You mentioned that you've studied a lot of things. So you're very valuable. Now, the next step is to understand who is your buyer. Right? You can even ask your own AI if you've trained your AI. It's like, I know how to do all these things. I need to make this much of a living. I want to offer these services. Is there a market? This is no differently than when I went to Tahara Common Sense Advisory. I said, look at me. I was like, would anybody want me at their boards? He's like, are you stupid? And so I was even asking myself, because we are clueless sometimes, right? But you need to be really well prepared of what you're offering. How are you going to be different in your area, in your region, in your city? And have fun. It will work. If you organize it well, if there is enough of a market that you can coin yourself in there and start. And then go find another agency like yours. And then maybe you guys do a merger and acquisition. Go and find somebody who wants to do this with you. When I thought about Women in Localization, I had two women next to me. It was Sylvia Avari and Eva Claudinova. Like, let's the three of us do this together, because when you're a community, you go farther, right? So think about these things. Do you want to do it alone? Do you have enough of a market? Are you going to be able to make the money? Thinking that year one you're gonna suffer. You may need to eat potatoes every day, right? And think of your finances. Can you sustain yourself? And in the meantime, I had when I was 23, I created my first company. I ate so many potatoes, right? You have to. And I worked at the airport. I was picking up suitcases at the airport for years until I said goodbye, airport. And so maybe, have a small job while you're creating your big business, your little business that will grow up. But you can do it, Natalia. You can do it.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Be well organized, focused, focus on this, make it your project, big time, every day, with optimism, different ideas, move fast, also.
Okay, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, great words.
Let me know when you have your agency, send us a note.
I will.
Right. So great words of wisdom. And Natalia, all the best to you. I think we have last 1 minute. Any quick question? I think that's most welcome. Otherwise, once we end, if you still maybe later on, if you have a question in your head, feel free to send it across to me. And I'll make sure that I'll work with Anna to get the answer to you. Any last question? Maybe not. So thank you, Anna. Thank you for coming in. We have started this globalization race to power of AI. I think we want to say that with technology, with AI, globalization is going to make more lives easier, more communication easier across the globe, and it will help businesses. The crux is in finding the right partners, working with right folks to make it happen. So the first session, thanks for coming in. We will have more such interesting sessions, great conversations. So all of you who took time to join us, thank you so much. And once again, Anna, thanks for coming in and helping us with this conversation.
Anytime.
Have a wonderful rest of the day, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.